Yes, this is How to Start GMing with Lloyd and others. Is how we're selling it.
Okay, so
Holden and Chloe. Mashiter?
Yes, what first time? No one does that.
I was gonna try.
Oh,
I'm really sorry. Just no way I was
that's
gonna.
fine. That's fine, Lloyd. We'll move past it.
No problem. Chloe, would you like to start us off?
Okay, I'm just going to quickly start with, sorry if this is a bit naff, but just quick straw polling. Who here has already done like some GMing of like role-playing games, things like that? Cool. Who here has played in them but not GM'd? Cool. And who here has never played any RPGs at all? Hey!
Wow. All right.
We're all learning. Cool. So that's just for us to get a bit of a sense of what people might want to know.
Well, should we start from the back? People who've never played gaming before.
Yeah.
And people who've played, and then people or GMs who want to like get extra advice.
Yeah. That sounds fair.
So we'll just do like, I mean, the theory would be we'd do one line each for people who've never played, and one line each for people who've played, and then one line each for GM Masterclass.
Okay.
Or would that be too weird?
We can try it.
I believe in you. I can start off if you want.
Do you want to? You start because you've come up with the format.
Okay.
Should we actually briefly say who we are?
That might be wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. I believe in you. Go.
It's great having your own like little hype man just appear. It's great. Yeah, quick hi. I'm Chloe. My background is kind of interactive theatre, game-based theatre, immersive theatre, but also tabletop role-playing. And I run a company that does like live D&D events and stuff, and I'm one of the GMs for that. Adventurers Wanted, quick plug. Yeah, and I'm mainly Dungeons and Dragons, but also occasionally Dread, Mutants and Masterminds, Fiasco, various different bits and pieces.
Hi, I'm Lloyd. I'm just a dude, but I run games on demand at UK Games Expo. Sign up, it's loads of tickets. Please buy. I need the popularity. And I've been GMing for the last 10 years or so. I'm not exactly the world's best GM. I like to pretend I am, but I'm not. But I tend to specialize in mostly narrative-style systems, but also games with really cool dice mechanics, and that's what I tend to focus my play on.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate. I am a freelance illustrator and games artist, and I've been dungeon mastering and GMing for about 10 years or so, mostly D&D, but also things like Fate Accelerated and Exalted and the like. And the only other reason you might recognize my voice, it means you are a filthy homestuck and should keep that to yourself.
Cool. You were going to do the 3 sentences.
All right, so I'll do the 3 sentences and 3 lines. So I say we all start on the first. Should we all do one, then do one, then do one?
Okay, yeah, sure.
That sounds fair. So 5 minutes each. That'll take up like 45 minutes, and then questions. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty easy, right? Yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing.
I believe in you.
Thank you. It's so nice to have your hype lady next to you. It just peers me. So, for those of you who've never played a role-playing game before, first up, congratulations, you've made the first step to changing your lives to the better. Secondly, role-playing games are everything that they are meant out to be. They're ways of thinking imagination and trying something new and changing the world and doing all that stuff. You know that thing that people do on TV called acting? It's kind of like that, but way more low-key. When you get into a role-playing game, the moment you click it, the moment it gets you, every other role-playing game will make sense, because soon you'll realize that you are not yourself. You are a version of yourself that you are playing. There's going to be a little bit of you in there, because nobody's Matt Mercer. There's going to be a tiny little bit of you in there, but that's the character you realize you are, and you will get other role-playing games. You'll get how mechanics work, the character you want. You're able to tell a story and make the story make sense, or not make it make sense if you're playing Toon or Paranoia, but that's the part that will get you. And once you get that click, it will make sense to you. All you need to do is basically just keep role-playing and keep trying different things until you reach that moment where that click kicks on, and then you're fine. And that's what you need to do to start role-playing. Just get out there, find people, give it a shot, try different things, and hopefully you get the part you want.
What I'd say for anyone who's never played an RPG before is to be honest, if you want to know about them and how they work and how to run them, just like ask one question of a current GM and they will happily spend several hours talking about like the time this person did this and oh my God, and I didn't realize this spell could work like this and this thing happened and this thing happened. And people will happily talk to you for ages. And the fact that you even come to this seminar, just makes it sound very formal, like it says. The fact that you've actually come here to learn stuff, like you're already streaks ahead of me when I first started GMing. I very much bought a starter set, read it, and jumped in. And I think one of the big things for me is don't be worried about getting things wrong. Don't feel like you have to be perfect the first time you start doing something. The first session I ran, I completely misunderstood how certain spells worked. And so someone kept setting their own hands on fire because I'd got processes wrong. But if you're getting together, if you find a really lovely group of people who just want to tell stories and have fun and things like that, they won't care. Yeah, I guess, I mean, it can sound a bit corny. The prime thing is having fun. Like, even if not a huge amount happened in a story, or even if you didn't understand this mechanic, or even if there was a bit of confusion about this thing, if everyone had a really fun evening and enjoyed spending time with each other at the end of the night, you've done good. Like, that should be your aim, always. If it stops being fun, take a step back and try a different game, chat to different people, things like that. But yeah, don't at all feel like you have to be perfect or amazing on your first try. You'll get loads of stories out of the failures and mess ups anyway.
So starting to GM, having never played any RPGs before, may seem like a daunting prospect, but I started GMing having only played one very short and very terrible session of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when I was like 12 years old. And I lived in a very rural kind of area. You might recognise that I've got a bit of a rural northern accent from out in the sticks in Cumbria. And there was nobody else who could run a game for me. I saw these books and I thought, hey, Dungeons and Dragons, like video games like Baldur's Gate. I can run that. It's like that terrible game that my friend once ran. And I just read through the books and just started DMing. And yeah, I got a lot of the rules wrong. But in the end, it proved to be just really good fun and not how people portray it at all. D&D's often, in the past particularly, been portrayed as this very dry, very serious kind of people kind of just sat around a table reading sort of thing. But it's more like this kind of wild party improv session where everyone's sort of laughing and shouting and dice rolling. And yeah, my advice is just jump in there because honestly, somebody has to be the GM. It might as well be you.
Okay, so that was just for a quick brief for the new people who are here. Rather, let's do one for players who want to be GMs.
Yeah.
I think we should go this way this time. So
sure. My first thing for anyone who's a player who wants to start being a GM, set a date. Like, have a date of when you're going to do your first game. Because if you're planning on running a game that involves a fair bit of world building, whether you're like writing up a new Dread campaign or whether you're doing D&D, something like that, if you're anything like me, you could spend literally years building that world for no one to end up playing in it. And if you actually set a date, you at least force yourself into a position where it's like, okay, I need to know how this, and this works, or I need to know this, and this place. I would say, there's bits of me that go, I would say, be sensible. Like, start off with, a small area that you can design. But the first thing that I did when I was a DM was make an entire planetary system with like planets and planetoids and all sorts. So it would be a bit hypocritical. Thank you. And I think also something that's a bit hard to do sometimes, especially if you've played in games with amazing GMs who have just been astonishing and do these voices and do all these cool homebrews and just seem to have these amazing imaginations, it can feel a bit intimidating because in your head, you're comparing yourself to all of the GMs that you know, or maybe all the GMs, Matt Mercer and stuff that you've watched do cool things. Again, it may not come instantly, but as you play, you will find the thing that you are super, super good and cool at as a GM. But start off with just what seems fun and interesting to you. I think that's my little, I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet, because otherwise I will ramble.
I think that's probably fair. We'll be rambling later, don't you worry. That's coming up. That's coming an hour. Whoa! So I gave advice earlier to new players about role-playing constantly to find that little niche so you can have that tiny little bit so you can remember to play a character and not yourself, but who have a little bit of you inside, the part of you that kind of controls him. Right. If you're a player trying to be a new GM, ignore all that advice. Just chuck it in the bin. That is not what you need to do as a GM. Do not have a bit of you in there. Your first game is going to suck. Let's just get this out of the way. It is going to suck hard. You're going to be the worst. Everything you do will be wrong. In your head, it's going to be like, yeah, I am the best GM. I've written this written ball. I'm going to go low prep or I'm going to write an entire world. It doesn't matter. It's going to suck. Let's get that out of the way. But the reason why it's going to suck is that you are going to find it very, very, very hard to get the idea that you have in your head to the 6 or 4 or 3 other players around you. The real barrier that comes from being a GM is trying to get your mind and their minds together. Synergy is how GMing works. You have to all reach a state where you're all thinking along the same track. After you get that bit done, the board part is the hard bit too, but that's after. That's the rules and learning what you're doing and learning what kind of prep you need and what you need, everything else. But the first thing you need to do is you need to connect to your players. You need to trust your players, and your players need to trust you. For your first game, get some friends around, tell them it's gonna suck, get right into it, play it, try it out. When it sucks, say yes, but keep going. Once again, it takes practice. It's not, some people are naturally talented, I will admit. I am not one of them. My first game was horrific, and I still remember today. But those of us who aren't lucky to be blessed by the gods, you have to get that level of connection. And once you get a level of connection, no matter how bad your plot is, and my plots are really terrible, the game will still work and still be fun. And the fun part is what you're going for. Eventually, you will find your niche. Whether you are a low prep GM, like hey, or a overcomplicated, I will build a world 2,000 years in the making and make them time travel. Don't do time travel, please, God. Don't do it. I'm begging you. Just don't do time travel. Just don't. It's not worth it.
I may have done time travel in my first one as a GM.
So do not. That is literally GM rule number 1. You know what? Here's a new number 1. Put it on the board. Don't do time travel. Don't do it. It's never worth it. There's always one punk ass at the back of the bucket who's like, but what if we change time now? Doesn't mean we're going back to the other time. That person needs to die. And they will always be in your game. Don't you want to figure me over there, sir?
It's even worse if you do a historical setting.
Oh!
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Even I wouldn't.
So once again, you've now played the game. Now let's say in the world of tomorrow, you have gone through our advice, you've noted them all down, you've gone, okay, I've got a game, I've established a game, I've got my prep, I know what I'm doing, everything's down. How do I level up? How do I get to the point where players start stopping what they're doing and put their phones on and go, wow, did he just make that plot line? That's amazing. I have a few things of advice. The first one I'd like to say is that always change the ground your players stand on. So you're a GM, you've established your world. At any point, if your players feel they are stable, break that stability. Breaking stability is what brings drama, because you want to make sure everyone should always know that they're not exactly perfectly safe. It's D&D. Your people have a castle. They have a guy running it. He's doing great. He has the whole place in. They leave the castle, go to the fort, come back. Next time they come back, there's an army on the other side of the castle. They're running away. You're like, what? Always make sure that the ground they stand on is never exactly firm. There should never be an absolute in any kind of role-playing game. There should never be doesn't matter, this will always happen, because there should always be a chance of change, because that's what dice is for. You roll dice, well, for most role-playing games, you roll dice because there is a chance that things are going to go haywire. So you should enjoy that. Secondly, for those of you who like combat, because you might be a GM who's like, actually, I really enjoy tactical combat. That's perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with it. But make sure your players are down with that too. I'm a person who usually has like very low hit point enemies in his games. Because I'm a person like just rock up and then like, okay, I'm gonna leap up the table and like smack this guy in the head, and then kick this guy out the window, and then flip that guy to bird. 'Cause why not? I like those. So I tend to have lower hit point enemies because I want the players to do cool, awesome things that take people out. If you're not the kind of GM who wants to have like, proper tactical combat sitting down looking down, don't let anyone tell you differently. There is nothing wrong with that. Feel free to try it as long as your players are down with it. Once again, synergy between you and your players is what makes a game strong. And there's quite a lot of people who are down for tactics. Always ask provoking questions during the game. If there's something that you're unsure of and the player hasn't really specified and left it open, ask him something that might change the way of him thinking. Like he goes, oh yeah, I have a mother who lives at home. You go, oh cool, do you have any family? Yeah, I have a brother. You go, so why, if you're adventuring and your mom's at home, where's your brother? Just phrase it in a way that they have to like sort of stop it and sort of expand their background and change the way they look at things. Just try something new and hopefully get them to get their creative juices flowing. The more people start to add more to a story, the more invested they become. And then use it to completely screw them over in the next scene. Just mess them up. Bring that brother back, he's evil now. What the heck? What's up? Okay, there is a phrase that you will hear a lot of in the role-playing game industry called yes and. It is a great phrase. It's simply this. A player asks a question, go yes, and then move on from there, and then work it out. It's a fantastic phrase. It doesn't always work because sometimes players ask really stupid things and you have to deal with it. But every now and then they'll say something and in your brain you should be able to switch around and go for it. If it's too much for you, take your time in incorporating it, but you will reach the point if you keep, once again, more practice getting it on, that you'll be able to yes and flow through things and just get it done. Oh, hold on. I have more notes. I gotta make sure I get this right. I'm a big fan of what I call turnabout role-playing. Has anyone played Phoenix Wright in this room? Hey, nice. Yes. The thing about Phoenix Wright that makes Phoenix Wright such a great game is that usually in the middle of the game, he'll present a piece of evidence and he has no idea how it's related to it, and he'll completely switch the case around. So you'll be like, oh yeah, well, this guy clearly killed her because he stabbed her with that knife. And you're like, well, what if he didn't stab her with a knife? Well, what could he stab her with? An icicle? You're like, yeah, an icicle. Wait. That means that, where did you get an icicle from? You're like, wait, then basically you're like, wait, hold on, that completely changes all the evidence I have. Turnabout role-playing is something, it's a bit of a masterclass skill where you can take a plot that you're writing and turn it on its head. It doesn't always work, once again. But once you get that click where you're like, hold on, let's switch this room around. Let's switch the situation. Let's change the perspective. Let's take things from someone else's point of view. And you turn about the plot of your games, you can lead some really interesting pre-productions. Yes?
Do you mean when you're planning it, you do this, or when a player asks a question and you realise that doesn't that actually makes more sense? Kind of thing?
A bit of both, actually. I was asking. Thank you very much, my Oscar Osmos in the corner there. Hi, nice to meet you. Nice beard, looks great. During a yes and, you can switch it round. While planning your plot, you can switch it round. It depends on how you feel about plot writing. I'm a low prep GM, so I tend to do it on the spot because I'm insane and I'm crazy. But if you do have great ideas and you want to try and implement them, just go for it. Some of them won't work, some of them will. 2 more pieces of advice. Yes and is great, but there's a phrase called, if that's true, what else is true? Which you can really use in your games to really help give some life to it. If a player says something like, say, oh yeah, the orcs are, yeah, I'm using orcs because it's easy. The orcs attacked from the west. And you're like, yes, because they wanted to destroy the world. You have to think back and go, wait, if the orcs are coming from the west, then why are the other orcs in the east? I've already said that. So if that's true, what else is true? Is there an army in the east waiting to keep them safe? Do I have to bring a new army in? Do I need to change the plot around and change my places around? Think about things people say and then relate them to other things, because the more you make connections in game, things go great. Finally, my final advice to everyone else is steal everything. I'm not talking about steal everything from a movie show, because you should do that. I'm not talking about steal everything from from books, you should do that. I'm talking about steal everything from everyday life. Somebody says a funny story at the office, steal it. You hear something called a podcast, steal it. You watch Critical Role, because everyone should do it, because it's great, yeah. Steal it. You want to know why I say that? Literally nothing I have said today is an original thought. Everything I've said right now, I have stolen from someone else. You can get everything in the world, just like that, from the tips of your fingers on the internet. Don't bother trying to think of an original thought if you don't want to. There's everything you need on the internet. There's podcasts, there's YouTube channels, there's books, there's anything. Grab ideas from here and there, throw it into your game and just knock yourself out. You have a grand time.
Wow, mine's going to probably be a bit shorter and sweeter. Not that yours wasn't really good, but as in, like, I don't feel I can pour out, because you both have said really amazing things. Because a lot of like my experiences playing with new players, people are entirely new. I think that's something, as you get more experienced as a GM and you're like, okay, I know exactly what this thing does. I know how this works, blah, blah, blah. And also if you get used to playing with really experienced players, it's just remembering, if you want to bring new people into the fold, the kind of things of just going, okay, so you do that. What does that look like? What does that spell look like for you? Because then, like, it's just always wonderful, the descriptions people give, and then you can kind of go, oh, okay, well, you're going to meet a character later on, and they're going to cast it exactly the same you do, and try and build those in a bit more to your world. And also, in terms of steal everything from real life, I think the further you can go with that, the better, because it's really easy to forget. Well, like something that came up in a game of mine the other day. Someone was like, wait, what's the equivalent of My Little Pony in this world? We were like, Happy Owlbear Hour. Okay, cool. It's like a show about owlbears. And I think culture and kind of relaxation time and like, if there's a local tavern, is there a quiz night in that tavern? Because trust me, if they find out, the players will want that quiz. And actually, that's a really lovely thing to have in downtime, especially if you're like me and you love combat, but you also love role playing. Then having those downtime activities that people can do in character is always wonderful. And so I think the more that you can think about the things that people do when they're not adventuring, actually will build up your world so much and can obviously come back into adventuring. But yeah, I think that's kind of because my background is role play. And some people will be still nervous to do that. But the more you can just give them little nudges, little coaxings of, wait, what does that look like? And things like that, and encourage them to be descriptive and just basically, I know it's exhausting, but always keeping your brain onto every single player in the room and thinking, is that person being quiet because their character is like that? Or because they're just actually getting lost a little bit in the morass? And don't ever be scared or feel nervous just to make sure you're actually explicitly checking in with your players outside of game. Sometimes it can feel a bit awkward to be like, are you having fun in the thing that I made and that I'm doing and I'm trying really hard at? It can feel really, but you should check because you want them to have fun. That's the whole point. That's my general thing. Questions?
Well, yeah, I was about to go into that. So we've got, let's see, how long was that? Wow, that was 30 minutes. We did great, guys. Good work.
Boom.
High clap for me. Thank you. I was kidding. I know, it's too late now. We'd like to open a panel to some questions. We've got 30 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys want. Let's start from the corner. I'm going to work my way this way around the room. Is that fair? I know you guys are left. I feel a bit sad. I swear I will get to you. Let me just work around the corner. We've got 30 minutes. Oz.
For new GMs especially, what are your thoughts on using pre-gens, especially to like teach yourself how to lay things out and so forth?
Oh, I love pre-gens. So I am the GM who I have a folder full of pre-gens. And I have pre-gen characters. I have a bunch of I have the Lost Mine of Phandelver from the D&D starter set, which is a really good starter adventure. And I've got things like, I've got pre-made adventures and things and pre-made characters. And it just saves so much time, especially with newbies, because you ask you ask a newbie, oh, do you want to make a character? It'll probably take you about an hour. And it's sort of like, well, what class do you want to play? And they get really worried, especially if they play video games. They'll be like, well, which class is optimal? I need to optimize my player character for combat. And it's sort of like, okay, so you've made this wood elf ranger who is literally only good at combat. And it's sort of like, no, you need the talky skills and things, but then you feel like you're kind of bossing them about. Whereas it's so much easier to come to the table and go like, here are the pre-gens I've got. I've got like a wood elf druid, and I've got this noble paladin, and you give them a little description of what that character is like. And it is just so much easier. I didn't used to like pre-gens because I always thought, oh, everyone's going to want to make their own character. But actually a lot of newbies don't, and you will really increase the number of people you can get into the game if you supply pre-gens, because not everyone's a hardcore geek, but you don't have to be a hardcore geek to enjoy D&D or other role-playing games. Sorry, I keep
other
focusing
gaming
on
systems
D&D,
are available,
but you might be playing Fate Accelerated, or you might be playing
Sins?
Yeah, you could even be
just bought the book,
playing
that's what I said.
GURPS if you hate everything.
There is nothing wrong with GURPS. Nothing. It's up to you. Play whatever role-playing game you like. I'm not your dad. I'd just like to point a slight add into that. I like pre-gen specifically because if you don't know what you're doing, you will know what the players are capable of with pre-gen. Because you made it. You know the powers, you know the skills. Life is easier. If you're... Steal everything.
Hey.
Steal everything. Sold. That advice serves me so well in life.
And also, like, just because it's a pre-gen, that doesn't mean that weird, totally unexpected stuff that is absolutely what the players have put into it isn't going to happen anyway. So yeah, I think they're awesome. They're a really good, solid foundation. If you need to kind of feel like you have what you need, then they give you that. But there's also total space for, Lost Mines of Phandelver to turn into an entire session going after this farmer, Darren, that she met in a pub. Oh, God. But yeah, so yeah, much in favour of them.
Hi, thanks very much for your enlightening advice. I just want to kind of build upon the point that you've been alluding to about your players not kind of getting into the game. So in our group, we did have a player, started off very enthusiastic, wanted to learn the game, and due to difficulties at the time and so on, it was quite obvious that he was not actually enjoying it and not participating in it as much. And eventually, he dropped out. Now the thing is, as well, about this, our friend who's a player, we tried very hard, not just the GM, but also as a group, to try and encourage him to join in. We say, are you still there? Kind of thing. Because we do through Roll20 online thing. Are you still there? And there'll be like long pauses, but eventually, he says, yeah, I'm still here. And he goes, okay. Do you have any ideas? Do you want to help us out here? And so on. But it just wasn't working, and he eventually dropped out. Now we're planning to start a whole new RPG game, a completely different system. And would you give this guy a second chance? Is what I'm gonna. What would your views on this?
That's
a different system that maybe he might be more interested in, because we just started on D&D, but we're trying more a different RPG, a more sci-fi setting, something that he's more into. Would you give him a second chance?
Before I give him a second chance, I would ask him honestly what he thought about the game before. And if his complaint is like, honestly, I just didn't like the rules, then yeah, totally give him a second chance. Like, not the rules. And then be like, look, if you don't like these rules either, just drop out. It's fine. We're friends. I'm assuming you're friends.
Yes.
I'm assuming this. You're friends. So if you go, well, here's a new system. Tell us why you didn't like this game, just so we know. Because it could just be like, he didn't like you, which is a perfectly possible thing to say. I'm not saying you're a bad person. Not saying that. But I have played in the game before where I'm with someone, I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to play with you anymore. I'm just kind of sick of your shit. So ask him what the reason is first. And whatever that reason is, that should help you decide whether or not you invite him again. Because if his reason is, I didn't like the rules, you can go, here's a new rule system, take a look at it, let us know. That's my advice anyway.
Yeah, having played on Roll20 for doing streams and having played around a table, some players if a player already is quite quiet, playing on Roll20 can be just awful because you're not around a table and you can't see each other unless you're using the video cam feature. People tend to talk over each other. You can't tell when a player is like, ooh, 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 like, ooh, I'm going to talk, I want to talk, because you have no visual cue. You do not have that. Because I've had a player in my streams, and she made the mistake of playing a really quiet character, and she's already a quiet person, and she just couldn't get a word in edgeways because her character wasn't noisy, she wasn't noisy, and we had all these other players. Of course, a lot of my groups are mostly comprised of amateur voice actors, so they're very good at like, oh, hello, my character does this sort of thing. And the player who isn't a voice actor and is playing this quiet sort of rogue, she was just like, I can't get a word in edgeways. I feel like I'm being talked over. I feel like my character's not doing anything here. So it may be worth talking to the player as well about the character they're playing and their role in the game, and whether you could maybe encourage them to play a character who'll just draw them out of their shell a bit.
Kind of basically what these guys have said, but something that is more just like a general thing, not necessarily for specifically you guys, but also talking to the other players in the group, because I'm sure everyone's given as many like concessions and tried to draw this person in. If anyone does end up in a situation kind of like that, where there is someone who's really quiet, also be aware of potentially the need to chat to the other players, because I play in some groups with some people who will just like steamroll and really take charge of stuff, and do sometimes need to be reminded that it is everyone's game and it's everyone's story. I'm not at all saying that's what you guys are doing. It's just more of a general thing, thinking of both the loud players and the quiet players. But yeah, I think the best thing to do is just explicitly talk to them about the game, because otherwise you'll just be kind of guessing what the precise issue was. Because sometimes it's just like length of game session, sometimes it's the rule set, sometimes it's just level of role playing or the other people. Yeah.
Sounds fair. Right, who's next? I got guy there, and someone over here, right? Oh, lady of the corner. So let's do you, lady in the corner over there, and then, oh my God, okay. We are now gonna emphasize a one panelist answers question policy.
Okay,
So,
sure.
So just a bit like, if you want to take this, just put your hands up.
Yeah.
Start with that guy there, then we're going to you.
I've played a lot of RPG games where it's very combat heavy, and although the mechanics of that are quite fun, it's incredibly boring where every encounter is combat, especially if you're not a combat character. What you were saying about like the pub and the quiz, for example, which is a nice example. What examples have you got as challenges and the mechanics behind those for players to attempt, perhaps around the table or separately, which are not dice roll combat?
Not dice roll combat. I don't have it on me. There's some really lovely stuff online about, like, this is partially because I do a lot of sci-fi stuff, diffusing bombs and things like that. It's obviously not combat, but there is that danger to it. To be honest, because it's so heavy in role play, the stuff that I do, I have to feel out like challenge ratings. I am very much intuitive in terms of that rather than like this specific thing, because so much of it is talking and discussions and things. I don't know.
Infiltrating a ball.
Ooh,
Doesn't matter what game you're playing. Doesn't matter what universe you're playing. There's always a ball full of rich people. Someone got to dress up. Someone got to come to the roof. Someone pretends to be servants. There is no game where a ball with people having fun in it, going into it is not fun. It is a great thing because you can't fight these people. You're like, well, why? They're all nobles, and if you fight them, the guards will turn up, and like it's all really bad. You're like, but we gotta get in there. How? I don't know. You're a servant because you can't talk. I'll pretend to be a noble because someone always does, and I'll come in from the roof and be sneaky and steal the gold. Always, like that's like top tip. Yeah. When they get without combat, have a ball that have to infiltrate. Done. Someone hands up. Yes.
Oh yes, just a suggestion about non-combat. I'm a GM and I've done a lot of role-playing games with strong storyline, and one of the ways to not have a combat heavy every time it goes into combat is to have a story where some of the character is essential to completing your mission or your campaign. That if you kill them, and the players know this, you may not be able to get to that next level. So not every character that you meet may be enemy, they may be, but they may not be. So you have to think a bit more, use a bit more of your diplomacy, and not just think that everything, including his Zebo, is everything.
Yeah, and I think when you start kind of thinking about like, you know, if there used to be a war in the place you're in, maybe there's someone who still thinks the war's happening, and it's not about fighting that person, it's about finding this person whose instinct is to fight, but actually it's much more helping them, talking to them, things like that. And I think when you just have lots of different characters with really interesting motives and drives, then there's lots of chances to help this person or undo this scheme, that kind of thing.
Sounds fair.
If I had to put one in, I would go investigation. I love like murder investigation, or just find out where the dungeon is, and they have to go around the town and they have to talk to all these shady characters, and at least one of them is lying through their teeth, and so there's like a contradiction in the evidence and things, and yeah, I really like that kind of thing.
And if you like take something that normally people would fight and I don't know, awaken it or give it some kind of intelligence so that actually its response isn't to fight back. And then the players have gone, wait, I thought I was kind of meant to fight this.
Also chase scenes.
Chase scenes are good.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted now. I could be here all day and tell you what, because I do a lot of non-combat stuff, because I'm like, yeah, let's chase the guy down the road, or, oh God, they're chasing us, and I don't know something. Person on the back, yeah.
This is more an extra tip that you guys haven't mentioned, and the other thing is killing players. Killing players occasionally is actually a really good thing. If they don't feel any peril, no point having combat.
I am very much, obviously it's a difference in style. I am fully in favour of PC death. If it's not just like as a blanket rule.
I'm as blanket rule.
But you know, if it's earned, if it has emotional stakes, suddenly, you know, the other PCs might have someone to avenge, things like that. Yeah, it just kind of has to, ideally you want it to be worthwhile. I think there's some, I can't remember where this is from, you know, stealing everything. If they die, it should kind of be because of their fuck-ups and screw-ups, not yours. So don't like put them with something that's got way too many hit points, way too OP. Like if necessary during the combat, just slide it down. If it is a death by combat, it might not be. Yeah.
But the one that you hadn't said was, if you're in the middle of a game and a rules question comes up, rule it, find it after the game. Don't break the flow.
I actually differ on this one. I think that depends on the game you're playing. Because if you're trying to learn the game and you don't know that role and you don't know how essential it is, like, for example, how does healing work? Oh, it works like this. Well, that means that my cleric is useless because you just house ruled it. House ruling and just find out later on only works if you are fairly sure the rule you're doing matters. If you're doing D&D and it's not that important, then that makes sense. Go figure out later on. If it's your first time playing a game and there might be a whole like 20-minute mechanic involved in it that one of the players has stretched out, gone for. One more thing. Remember, guys, death is only a very easy way out. There are ways to kill players that don't involve them dying. Destroy their lives, destroy their families, destroy what they fought for. Take away their powers, take away their strengths, give them more weaknesses, make their lives a living hell. There are so many ways to kill players that they don't have to change characters, but they'll want to. Right. One more from this side. Guy in the back, right there.
Kill the characters, not the players. Otherwise you're going to hate the bodies.
Yeah,
Well,
kill the
yeah, if you want to
characters,
get,
it's
yeah.
really boring, God.
Yeah.
A question. You mentioned earlier about hardcore optimizers and that can cause problems in the game because they're building characters at a much higher power level than you anticipated. Any thoughts on breaking people about habits without a baseball bat?
Well, I've always found that once they've played one game or two, optimizers tend to sort of see that, I'm actually not having fun. Like I once played a game of second second edition Exalted, and I wasn't the GM for this one. I was a player. My two other players, they had hyper specialized for combat. Like, one of them was this inventor, and he had this wacky gizmo that, like, it's like an egg, and metal tentacles come out, and the GM had allowed him to craft this ridiculous item that did crazy amount of damage. The other guy was like, oh, my guy's really emo and depressed, so when he's not in combat, he just sits around crying. But in combat, he was just like this monster. He could... Good grief. And I was like, oh, wow, there's talking in this game. I'm going to play this diplomat class, and my character is like this diplomat, and she's got like a fan, and she's like, it wears a dress, and she was terrible in combat. She did once kill an enemy by stomping on it with a stiletto heel, which was amazing. Nice. The rest of the time, though, she just completely dominated all the talking scenes. So it's sort of like character one was just stood there like, I just want to go and invent things and kill things. The other guy was just sat there crying in the corner. Like, his player would literally be like, okay, my character's crying in the corner. And my character was sort of like, oh yes, I will go to the Grand Duchess's ball, and oh, it's good to see you again, kind of thing. And it's just like they had nothing to do outside of combat, and I had very little to do in combat. And from that, all of us learned, and the next time we made players, made ones that had a bit of both, because it is so boring to completely dominate combat and then have nothing to do the rest of the time.
I'm going to jump off it to come... Well, you want to say something comment to that? Yeah. Go on then.
Same problem. I have one player that is a hardcore optimizer.
Are they in a line?
Yeah, exactly. Same game.
Yeah.
Where literally he optimizes his character to the point where he's incredible at one thing. Don't give him the one thing. Give it to him like once or twice, and then, oh, that's exciting, and now you're in a scenario where you can't shoot things with an arrow from 400.
Something I do want to say, if that's how that person has fun, and it's not getting in the way of the other players, and they've got other things that they can do and they're going to enjoy, let them do that crazy OP thing. Obviously, you don't want it to totally destroy the plot. If it's like a really narrative heavy thing and you don't want it to be, oh, I had this, I had these, my end game, my boss or whatever, now he's going to be able to deal with, or she's going to be able to deal with, or they're going to be able to deal with. But work around that, because if that's how they have fun and it's not getting in the way of anyone else's fun, I say let them be crazy OP and shoot stuff.
I'm with her as well, actually. So I was about to jump over, but I feel like I should say something because everyone else has.
Yeah,
so bad.
I've kind of gone against that rule.
Yeah, like I'm like, guys, what are you doing? This is not a democracy. I mean, so if you are gonna have an optimizer in your party, like, it's gonna happen. Life sucks. Spotlight more. Give everyone a chance to shine on the thing that they do best. An optimizer probably is best at combat. So you know what? Every now and then, just like throw in some minions. Be like, yeah, go on, kill them all in one hit. Go on in one hit.
Yeah.
Just do it. Oh, go on then. Just do it. Just knock yourself out. Go for it. Because, like, that's why they optimize. They don't optimize because they want to screw you over. They optimize because they want to feel cool. Mm-hmm. They might even be a good role player. They might be a bad role player. I don't know. I'm not your dad again. But they do it because they want to do cool things. So give them that one cool thing, like you said. And then make sure other players get the cool thing too. Now, if they try and interject on other players' cool things, kill them. Shouldn't be hard. I did not distinguish for a reason. Right, okay, right. So we're doing left side now. We did it, guys, left side, woo!
Oh, actually, just before we go to the left side, I've just had a quick thought about that everyday stuff. Mm-hmm. Something that I really want more of in roleplay games is characters who sleepwalk. Because I don't know whether it's like a dice roll of how far they've gone in the night or something. I'm not saying do the Hangover, but stuff like, actually, there's some really lovely real life things like sleepwalking. And also, the more that you play with how the characters interact with each other, I know entire games that are practically just people scheming against other PCs. And it's rarely combat. It's more just like, other stuff going on. But yeah, please, just loads of sleepwalking all the time.
Also, if you want advice for players going against other players, I can't help you. I'm really sorry. That's the one thing I just have never managed to figure out how to combat. I love my players working together, and when they stop working together, I literally stop the game and go, guys, this is a team game. I cannot in character stop you. So I will stop you out of character, and if you don't stop this, I'm going to pick up my toys and go home.
I deliberately set stuff up so that the characters will argue.
You are a demon. You are an actual demon.
It's fine if the characters are arguing, not the players. Of there's a line there. I don't want people to fall out, but yeah.
All right. Okay. Finally, left side. We did it, guys. Left side. All right. Hands up for left sides. Oh God, so many. Okay. Okay. Well, I did say I'll go this way. So, oh my God, lady, I'm really sorry. You're the last person. I'm so sorry. Right, guy at the back in the cool jacket, shirt, Everlast, I can't tell. Hi.
So which advice you have, like, to keep the pace during the session? Like, to not let the roleplay drag? Like, when you turn a tavern and the players just want to eat the whole plate forever. Or when you're in a combat with 2 skeletons and they stop, like, for an hour to do, like, this crazy plan. It's not
I could tackle this, but I'm gonna open a panel for my 2 lovely panelists as well.
My first instinct, reduce the number of doors that you have in your campaign, because people will spend a long time planning how to open a door, and I've had people, just don't have doors. I think, obviously, it depends on the setting.
3 minutes?
What?
Whoa. 3 minutes? Oh my God! Jesus!
Oh,
right.
Jesus! Okay,
speed, go!
Okay, don't have doors. It's always that you could have like a god comes in and speaks to them, or a person comes. Like, there's always an item they can find, a god who can speak to them, a person who can burst in, a trap in the room that can go off. I think it's fine for you to have those little things. Obviously, it's best if they somehow work in the world. I'm not a fan of like completely random encounters and things happening. I'm a fan of random things that link to other story points that will then look really clever later on. But yeah, that's my really quick one. Sorry, because we're having to blast through.
No problem. Next, go. Honestly, after this, come talk to me. I'll tell you.
Come talk to us.
I've got one for you. Trust me. Who's next? Up, hands up. Go. Move. Guy in the corner.
Not PvP, but how would you deal with players developing their characters in a way that means that they shouldn't really be together anymore?
Okay, we've just gone for 5 minutes, so we have a little bit more time. Thank God for that.
Okay.
Oh, thank God for that. Can I go this one?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Whenever a player starts to develop their character and they start to split apart, honestly, that is an out-of-character conversation. Ask all the players, guys, I feel like you guys plotline, because remember, guys, this is a game you're playing together. You have to synergize. If their plotlines are going like that, ask them, do you feel like this character would be with these players anymore? Should we talk about this and like see what the plots, especially if you're running a proper campaign? Because they might go, actually, I think you're right. I think you would go off and do this, and I'll play someone else. Or they might all go, actually, we want this character in. Can you make the plot so they come back together? And and if you say, I'm gonna try, usually the characters will follow along with the new plot you've done to sort of get the plot back in. It's always about communicating with your players about those things. Personally, I try to make sure when players go off there, I kill off some people. Because that gets to go whoop right there. Vengeance is a great motivator. I did not distinguish. I will point that out again.
Can I super quickly just throw in?
Do it.
It's not a game I run. It's a game I play in. But basically, a character was like, I want to go do this and this really important thing for me. And everyone else was like, we're going off that way. And actually, it just split into 2 games. We might come back to each other. We might not. But I mean, you can try to give people things to care about, or things to draw them to, or things to push them away from. But actually, it was the most satisfying thing that felt like it honoured basically what everyone was doing in character.
Nice. Next up, hands up, guys. I know.
Is it lady?
Oh, there's 2. There's 2 ladies. Okay. One in the back. Then we'll get to you. I swear to Jesus.
So I have a gaming group, and we have too many GMs who want to play that game. We never get to the higher level characters. And it's something that I'm being thinking maybe it'd be just nice to start off as a higher level. What experience do you have of like starting out getting to higher levels?
First up, sorry, I'll let you go for it. Why don't you go for it? Go for it.
Do you? I mean, I've always found it to work fine, so long as players have experience playing with high-level characters. In the past, I've made the mistake of starting the players at a higher level when they haven't really played much before, because as an experienced player, I was like, oh, well, of course I want to be high level, because all of the cool stuff happens when you're at a higher level. You can do way more stuff, but they just get really stuck. They're just like, I don't know what all these spells do, and I'm scared of the dragon. And it's sort of like, no, but you're like level 10. You can beat that dragon into a bloody pulp easily. But yeah, I think starting at a higher level is, you know, it's fine. If they're experienced players, they'll deal with it all right.
And finally,
I'm playing with a group that are fantastic, but they like to faff, and I've got hours and hours into building a world that I'm really proud of, but they faff all the time. So I'm just wondering what your advice is for treading the really fine line between keeping the story going versus actually railroading them, because that's what I don't want to do, but I do need the story to...
So can just to clarify, they're faffing around in world?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Railroad them. Let's just shoot them, kill them, not distinguish. Listen, all right. So I played a game. I've got so little time. I played a game last month. Last month I played a game. They spent 2 hours going to dig a hole in a completely pointless part. The game was 8 hours long, and I was sitting there going, I want this plot to move forward. If you do not freaking follow the GM's advice, I'm going to lose my mind. Sometimes the best way to make things happen is to raise the stakes. When you make time a factor in players' actions, they will stop faffing. When you suddenly have suddenly they're like, okay, why you do this? The town next to you burnt down, guys. I'm really sorry about that. Oh, the town next to you burnt down again. Things are happening. People start moving forward. Try and make your NPCs start to do things and let the players start to see. When they start to see, they'll go, guys, we really should stop trying to do this quiz in the tavern and kind of go over there and do the thing that the plot GM wanted us to do for the love of Jesus. It was also a game that had time travel in, which is the reason why it took so long to do anything else, because there was time travel in. I don't know why they were doing it. You're welcome. Right. Are we done? Questions, right? All right.
Can I make I'm just going to do a really quick plug for a thing. If anyone here is based in London, on the 16th of June, there's going to be like a free day event, which is basically come and play some D&D. Bring people who've never played D&D before. Like there'll be people there running some one-shots, doing character creation, doing like writing adventures and stuff. And it'd be lovely to see people there. Just go to like @adventurers250 on Twitter, and there are details about that. Totally free. It'd be lovely to see people.
My plug quickly, 2 things. I'm doing Games on Demand. Come over there. It's great. It's fun. It's 2 hours. And we promise we will not faff and I won't kill you. I'm not distinguishing.
Can I have time travel?
You cannot have time travel. I will, however, also say, guys, most of my advice have come from most of my advice that I'm just decided that if you want to be a GM, you have to go for. On the Shoulders of Dwarfs is a podcast that is currently going down. Sweet Jesus, just go listen to it. They'll do everything better than I could do it. It's not long. It's 1 hour long each time. It's full of a couple of fun guys from Israel. It's lovely. It's great. Listen to it. It's fantastic. Any more plugs?
Go to the Dungeon Masters Guild and buy the Spellbinder class, because I get money when you do, because it's mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was us for the panel. Have a good day.